Hope everybody's doing well today. I want to welcome everybody to the Unimpressed Podcast today. And today I have a gentleman calling in from New York City. I think he's originally from Romania, and his name is Kevin Tatar. And I think I said that halfway right. And he has come up with this thing called Cookbook, which is a healthy way to save money and have good tasting food, right?
Yeah, thank you for having me, John. Cookbook itself is a YouTube channel I also have an Instagram and a TikTok, but it's about making content around food. That's right. You said it right. It's affordable, healthy, and, tasty for everyone.
Affordable, healthy, and tasty foods was the idea because you moved from Romania and went to where?
I was born in Romania and then I moved to the Netherlands and Europe for university. And that's kind of where I started to develop my passion for cooking for myself.
What was the thought process of going down this road? Have you ever cooked before? Did you aspire to be a chef? I mean, what was the thought process with that?
I don't think I ever aspired to be a chef, but I was always very attached to food and the process of cooking itself. My grandma back in Romania, I think she was my main inspiration. She passed away, unfortunately, when I was a kid, but I remember that she showed me first, like, the power that food has around, like, building a community and bringing people together and really creating strong feelings for the people at the table. And I just liked that a lot. And I cooked a lot with her, and I think I just took that inspiration and all those feelings and channeled them into the future in my life.
So you started kind of having some inspiration to go down this road with food. And what was your angle and what did you find, going through this process?
So I found that a lot of the food that you see on the internet is not very difficult to make necessarily, but it's a little bit unapproachable because it comes from chefs and people who are trained in the culinary business. And I wanted to show people and approach my content from the standpoint of someone who's not, formally trained and who kind of learned how to do all these things from the internet, and just to see what's possible to do with limited budgets, a limited skill set, and it's still a lot. So that was my approach.
My wife is a chef. And when you think about that, why do you have to have, the official chef name or the official chef degree to be a great cook? I don't think you have to, because I think
absolutely
if you look at cooking, I mean, I think it's artistry in a way. And I think you either are an artist or you're not, in a way, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of artistry and skill that goes into cooking. But I think my view on that is that everyone should try. And everyone should be a cook one way or another. I really think that. And I really think anyone can. Of course, not everyone's going to work in a Michelin star restaurant and, make beautiful plates and exciting textures and tastes in a plate. But I think everyone can cook exciting food for themselves and the people around them. It's kind of like two-sided, because you have obviously the trained chefs, and as you said, not necessarily trained, but they're able to make something special. So, like, you could call it art, but there's also the necessity of just cooking for yourself. And I think you should make that as fun as possible and don't be intimidated by that.
Now, when you approach the cost factor of these foods, what did you look for?
I wanted to reduce costs without sacrificing too much quality. So that usually means either buying local or finding some deals at your grocery store, just knowing to buy the right ingredients and to make some stuff from scratch that maybe it's even going to be better. But, for example, if you go to the grocery store and you buy one of those prepackaged salads and like the bag of mixed whatever, it's going to cost you more than if you do it yourself, and it's probably going to be better. So that's the angle that I'm taking with that.
Is there, a lane you stay in to kind of stay within this budgetary, idea?
Well, yeah, of course, you can go to extreme. Like, you can go around getting Wagyu A5 beef and using that. But I think just using common sense, I don't reduce the cost just for the sake of it. I just make it to a practical point rather than, getting the cheapest thing possible. So it's just about what you have available and what you can reduce and still maintain the enjoyability of it.
And I see you have about 1 million followers on Instagram. How long have you been been on this journey?
So I've been creating content since I was a kid, and my dream was always I grew up watching YouTube, and my dream was always to be a YouTuber and to make content on the internet. I was always very passionate about that. But Cook itself as a project came to be only not even 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it's been a year and 8 months of me working, I would say full time at Cook, like for Cook, and it became a thing. Like it truly blew up not even a year ago. It was July of last year. So it's been a crazy journey.
So when it became a thing, what is that? How did it become a thing?
So, well, the numbers blew up pretty exponentially, literally within 1 week. And that's when I was like, okay, so I really got something in my hands right now. You know, it really it motivates you to become better and create more when you see people actually being involved. I mean, you probably know this, right? When you see dedicated fans, they care about you, they care about what you make. You see people making your recipes, and you see people actually being like, oh, I cooked for the first time in my life tonight because of your video. That's powerful to me.
How old are you now?
I'm 23 now. I just turned 23.
23. So you were doing this at a very young age. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. 15, 16, 17.
I even started, like, my journey with YouTube even started earlier. I was like 12, 13, maybe when I started having my first channels. Obviously very bad, probably. They're not even online at this point, but that was pretty cringy. But it was important for me to go through that to get to this point. And I think probably 10 years from now, I'll look at this and I'll be like, okay, maybe not the best that you could do, but it was important to go through it.
You're in New York now. What are you doing in New York, and what's going on with this brand and this ideology?
So I took a US trip for the first time in my life. Actually, I'm in the US, and it was a lot about my book launching. My cookbook is called Tasty, Healthy, Cheap. And I had a couple events with that. And I just met some people who I made some videos with. It was just about connecting with some people here. And also, like, you know, experiencing the US for the first time. I made some videos. I tried some food. It was pretty exciting.
Now the food, have you noticed the difference between the food here and the food in the Netherlands?
That's a very good question. Absolutely. So firstly, everything is bigger. Like, you go to any sort of store or any restaurant and you ask for the medium, usually you would get that, for example, a drink. You would ask for a medium drink, but in the Netherlands, that drink would be like bigger than a large. I've always experienced that here. Even in the grocery store, like, everything seems bigger. Even the onions are like huge. They're massive. And then another thing, let me think. What else? Well, that was kind of the most shocking, the most shocking.
I mean, is the food in the Netherlands more organic than the stuff here in the U.S.?
Well, you know, I'm not a big fan of the food in the Netherlands either. But for example, where I come from originally in Romania, there's a much bigger culture of you just buying locally. You go to the farmer's market, and that's like the main place people go to buy their vegetables or like eggs or meat. And then it's local vendors selling, you know, their tomatoes, and the tomatoes are ugly. And that's when you know you got like actual, you know, homegrown tomatoes, for example. The Netherlands has kind of an industrialized way that they make their food. It's very efficient and it works. I think they figured out some sustainable ways to, you know, for example, for tomatoes, I know that. But yeah, the quality, I'm not a huge fan of the food, even in the Netherlands.
So you think the quality may be better here than in the U.S.?
Here in I don't know. It's just different. I've noticed that a lot of the products have additional sugar in them. Like, I go buy some bread and the bread is sweet, you know, and I look for different types of bread, and everything that I get seems to be sweet. And I probably have to go buy some sourdough from an actual bakery to get like what I would call regular bread. It's just different. You know, I wouldn't say it's better or worse.
Was there any type of go-to ingredients, you know, when you cook or whatever? Is there certain things you like?
Yeah, I have a couple things. It's kind of a ongoing joke on my channel that I have a irrational love for beans and chickpeas or any legumes. As far as I even have a tattoo. I don't know if you can see it, but this right here is a bean. So yeah, I just love legumes a lot, especially beans of all kinds. I don't discriminate. All shapes of beans, I like them. And I cook a lot I use a lot of like Greek yogurt and stuff in sauces. I put that in everything. Those are the two that I'm for sure overusing.
Now, the Netherlands, how big is the Netherlands over there?
It's
Are you
tiny.
an EDM fan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, and they have a lot of the DJs are Dutch.
Yeah.
Like worldwide DJs. Are you an EDM fan?
I know Armin Van Buuren pretty
Armin.
well. Yeah.
Oh, you know
I knew
him?
Armin. Yeah, I know him really well. I did a documentary with Armin
that's
in
amazing.
2007.
Wow.
Long time ago. This is like Armin used to ride with me to pick up my daughter at daycare.
What? That's crazy. Wow.
In LA, yeah. When he would come to LA, because
he was at the forefront of electronic music. Absolutely. Yeah, 2007. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we did that documentary and we were so far ahead of the timetable of EDM. We didn't even know who to sell it to.
Yeah.
But I was sitting with Armin in the car and I told him, man, I said, this is going to be the biggest music in the world.
Wow.
And he was like, nah, right, man. And I knew his manager, Michael Pirion. And yes, this time flies. But that was very interesting. He couldn't understand why people in the U.S. would go to jail for paying their taxes. Or for not paying their taxes.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He said, because they can do things like that in Holland.
Exactly. Have you been there?
I haven't been. I want to go. I mean, I've been to Amsterdam.
Right. Yeah. That's there.
I've been to
Amsterdam. The capital
Amsterdam.
of the Netherlands. Yeah.
What town are you in over there?
So I'm in a city next to Amsterdam. It's called The Hague. And then it's also close to Rotterdam. Maybe you've heard of that one. But everything there is pretty, like, what shocked me about the US mainly were the distances. Like in LA, for example, I couldn't go anywhere without a car. Like there's no notion of walking. You have to drive like an hour to reach a place within the same city. Like in the Netherlands, if you drive for an hour, you've passed through like 2 cities. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, that is when you first go to LA, that is a realization. I think when I went to LA for the first time, I think I had that realization because we thought we could, understanding New York City and cabs, when we got to LAX, we thought we could cab it everywhere. But that ain't, it's kind of crazy if you try to do that with, driving from West Hollywood to Santa Monica, if you will.
Yeah.
How long were you in LA?
I did 3 weeks in LA.
3 weeks. And how long you been in New York City?
I think only like 4 days at this point, or maybe 5. I think 4. I kind of regret not staying a bit more in New York because I'll actually leave in 4 days. Because I like it more. I gotta admit, I like it way more than LA.
You like the city more?
Yeah, it just has a energy that I feel like is very unique, and I kind of like the chaos because people say it's very chaotic, which is true, but there's kind of I don't know how to explain it. There's a calmness in all the chaos. I feel like it makes you feel comfortable. I think if you're the specific type of person, it makes you feel comfortable, even though there's a lot of people going everywhere and it's chaotic.
No, your parents, what do your parents do?
Yeah, my parents, they're back in Romania, and my mom's a doctor. She's doing an actual important job, not like me.
Gotcha.
And then, my dad owns a martial arts gym in which I trained since I was a kid.
So Romania, tell me a little bit about Romania. What are the people like in Romania? What's the culture like and what's going on there right now?
I have a lot of mixed feelings about Romania because the country itself is beautiful, especially the natural scene. Like if you go, it's very underrated. Like if you want to hike, if you want to go to the mountains, there's some beautiful scenery in Romania. And then with the people, it's hard because a lot of them have grown up under very specific circumstances of like poverty. Back in the day, we had an authoritarian regime. I don't know if you know about that dictatorship that ended in in 1989. So we're kind of still feeling the repercussions of that. And there's a generational gap for like the people who grew up in that during that time. And now, you know, people are starting to get more progressive in the cities. And it's kind of this weird mix of people. Like we're trying to get somewhere, but there's still a lot of corruption. There's still a lot of poverty. Education systems not going well at all. But I'm feeling relatively hopeful because a lot of great people are there. Unfortunately, a lot of the good people leave to places like, you know, the US or Europe.
And when you say what I mean, when there's a past culture and a current culture, what, you know, and then there's a mix, what is that like? Because I guess there's a lot of programming there about, you know, how this one side of the people grew up and lived, and now there's a whole different angle. I've never thought about that transition.
Exactly, because this thing obviously happens naturally. Like, you know, I guess people are more progressive than their parents, and then they are more than their grandparents. But it was very accentuated in Romania because the previous generations, they grew up under, you know, as I said, the dictatorship, and movement was very restricted. Media was very restricted. So now that that's not happening anymore, it's kind of this interesting dynamic where people are kind of stuck in some old ideas, but then a lot of the young people who are more progressive, they're in conflict, obviously. So as I said, a lot of them leave, which is not the best. But I think over time, it's going to get better for sure.
Now, being from these different parts of the world, what type of fans and people resonate to your content, your videos with the cooking?
I have a series in which, one of my most popular series on YouTube is where I try food from other countries. So I usually go to the comments and they tell me, oh, try this from my country, you're going to like it. And that's part of the job that I love a lot, is just to explore different ways, you know, ingredients are used in other cultures. And I tried that myself, and I'm always like, I'm going to try it. This is not like an authentic representation. This is just me trying it at home. And they love that. Like the people from the country, they love me, like experiencing the food vicariously through me. And I think they also learn a lot about other cultures and countries, and you know how a dish can have a different interpretation like across the world, and it's so got similar fundamentals, but then the details are different, and that's beautiful.
What's some of the weirdest food you ran up on that you didn't expect? Was there anything that you didn't like? You're like, what is this?
I don't like necessarily calling the foods weird, but definitely unusual for me. You know, maybe for my culture and the way I grew up, I think a lot of the food that we experience, obviously, we're biased towards what we grew up with. So whenever I encountered something completely foreign to me, I was a little bit taken aback initially, but then once I understood it, I liked it, actually. For example, there's this thing called the century egg, that is kind of a preserved duck egg in some very specific ingredients. And it just has this pungent, I would say almost metallic, it's got a kick to it and a strong smell. And at first I was like a little bit like, okay, I'm going to try it, but I don't really like it. But then once you understand how it's used, and once you understand that you're supposed to use a little bit in these particular dishes, and it just gives it this additional layer, that's when I actually started liking it. So I think, with the weirdness of food, I'm usually very open to the times when I'm like a little bit, oh, maybe I don't like this, or I don't understand this yet, because that gives me an opportunity to expand my tastes. And I think that's amazing.
Do you think you're a taster? Like, can you recognize flavor and put different flavors together? Like find something, let's say if there's an ingredient that tastes a certain way and you don't have that ingredient, but you're able to find something that's similar to add instead of the ingredient you couldn't have. Are you able to do things like that? Because I think that's somewhat of a special ability in art, if you will.
Yeah, that's definitely a very specific skill. And I never thought of it specifically if I have it, but you know, anecdotally, when I think about it, I think I do have some degree of that, because I usually pick up on like very subtle ingredients that I like, or if I don't like something, I'm like, oh, that's in there. But I don't know if I have that skill, you know, more so like exceptionally more than a regular person. But I think I can develop that, with what I'm doing right now. Just me tasting food all over the world and really being open-minded. I think eventually I'm going to get to that point.
Now, with the book that you just released, I mean, what is your goal with the book and so forth?
Right. So I feel like a lot of cookbooks are a little bit intimidating, and people my age usually don't really buy them for that reason. They're all like, oh, French techniques, and which are important, but fancy words and very specific things, and you cook this to this exact temperature. And I just wanted to completely break that down and have a cookbook that is addressed to those people. And it's like, okay, you can pick this up, you open it at any page, and you can literally probably make something with what you already have in your pantry. I just wanted to talk about that approach and philosophy that I have currently in my life and show some recipes. So I think I made it mainly for it to be useful and as an introduction to make people understand that they can cook something and they have the ability to put something on the table that they will like.
Now, you being a young guy, when you approached this book, did you think about the length of it and considered how people's attention spans are?
Yeah, definitely. Well, so I work with a wonderful team. They're called Quarto, that helped me publish the book. So luckily I had some people that knew exactly what they were doing. They're like, okay, so we need about 65 recipes, or every recipe needs to be this big. So I had some guidelines. So I couldn't just write freely, like, make a 500-page book. And yeah. I think the result was really a compact, but still like detailed, and it just touched all the notes that I wanted. So I'm very happy about the length and the fact that you can open it at any page and you see the picture and then you see the recipe on the other side. I think that works for the attention span that you just mentioned.
So when you open this book, you're going to see a photo and then you're going to see the recipe right there.
Yeah, I can even show you right here. Oh, I have it right here.
Okay. So
for example, here it's like, oh, tuna melt quesadilla. And then you see the picture. And here is the recipe. So that's the entire thing, So I like that aspect about it.
What age range are you appealing to? What's your demographics?
I think the way I see it is people my age, because I studied at a university, and I just know how the people my age think about food. A lot of them take shortcuts. A lot of them don't have time, and for understandable reasons. So I wanted to appeal to 20 to 24, maybe 18 to 24. I think right when you get out of high school, you probably move out. You start needing to develop a cooking skill.
And how about females? How do you get some of these? How do you get some of these younger females to take this advice and cook? A lot of females out there don't cook in this day and time.
Well, I mean, I see it both ways. I think both guys and girls should cook, and I have my demographic is split, so I have girls and guys definitely, and they both, a lot of them have bought the book and they're very excited about it.
So what's the next steps for you? What are you looking to do in the next couple of years, and with everything you got going on?
Right. So I want to focus on really making a lot of good content on the internet. That's my main focus, actually. It's going to be about, taking this message and pushing it forward creatively to the best of my abilities. I want to form a team around me and just put out content that I think tells a good story and I think delivers the message in a fun way. So my whole focus is going to be making good content in the next, foreseeable future.
Maybe be like that. You seen that Turkish chef that does all the crazy meats?
Oh, like what's his name? Salt Bay? The guy who does this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does like a golden steak and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that guy. Yeah, he does.
He's kind of different, right?
A lot of that is taking, how do I say this? It's taking the show aspect of cooking food and pushing it to the limits where it's already like a little bit, I don't know, it's not really about the food. It's about like, oh, this is a golden steak and I'm putting a lot of salt on it. And I've heard his food in his restaurants is bad, to be honest. I've heard, I'm not saying it is, That's what I've heard.
Now, you think you would ever open up a restaurant?
I think that's, opening a restaurant, I think is incredibly difficult to do it properly. And I don't even necessarily think you have to be skilled at cooking to own the actual restaurant. I think you need like a lot of managerial skills. And yeah, I think it's tough. But I do have a dream of one day opening some sort of either a small place where I can have a very controlled approach to the dishes. But definitely not anything big. If I would open anything, it's going to be like local and specific and curated to what I think is good. But that's like,
Nice.
10, 20 years down the line, potentially. Who knows?
Nice. Now, you got a girlfriend or anything like that? Or what's
Yeah,
going
definitely.
on?
She's actually right there. She's in bed in this. We're staying at a hotel that is tiny. So the whole room is just like a bed and this table that I'm at right now.
Yeah, the New York City box.
Exactly. The New
The
York City
little,
box.
for $400 a night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, where do we find the book and where do we find information on you? If someone out there, a young person or whoever's out there wants to find some recipes that are inexpensive and healthy, where do we find this information?
Absolutely. So you can pretty much everywhere. You can find me at Cookbook. So the way you spell that is Kwoowk. It's a palindrome. So you spell it the same from left to right as you do from right to left. And I think if you look that up on YouTube, you're going to find me. My book is available on Amazon. It's called Tasty, Healthy, Cheap. 3 powerful words. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I think we had a good conversation. And hopefully if there's someone out there listening, they can check you out and find some new inspiration and new recipes and save a little money.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, John. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, this has been Kevin Tatar, and I'm John Edmonds Cosma, the CEO of Bang Productions.